Orange, New Jersey, 1917. A factory floor filled with young women sitting at long wooden tables. They are painting tiny numbers on wristwatch dials with fine camel hair brushes. Each dial is the size of a half-dollar coin, requiring absolute precision. The women are teenagers and young adults, some as young as 14 years old. They are told they are doing important war work for their country. The paint they use glows in the dark with a faint green luminescence. It is called undark. It is made from radium, the miracle element of the new century. Radium has been discovered less than 20 years earlier by Marie Curie. Newspapers call it liquid sunshine. Doctors prescribe it as a health tonic. Wealthy people bathe in radium-infused spas and drink radium-laced water. The United States Radium Corporation tells the girls the paint is completely harmless. The paint powder is pale beige and looks as innocent as baking flour. But every time a girl lifts her brush, she performs a gesture that will kill her. The brushes lose their fine point after 2 or 3 strokes on the dial plate. The supervisors teach the girls a technique called lip pointing. Put the brush between your lips. Roll it to a fine tip. Paint the next number. Put the brush in your mouth. Shape the tip. Paint the number. Repeat. The girls do this hundreds of times per shift. With every lip point, a tiny amount of radium enters their mouths. The radium is absorbed through the soft tissue of their lips and gums and tongues. From there, it travels into the bloodstream and finds its way to the bones. Radium is chemically identical to calcium. The body cannot tell the difference. It deposits the radium directly into the skeleton, believing it is building healthy bone. The girls are not lazy. They compete for speed records and productivity bonuses. Amelia Maggia paints 250 dials in a single shift. Grace Fryer works double shifts to save money for nursing school. Catherine Schaub paints intricate watch faces with the precision of a surgeon. They laugh at lunch breaks and share sandwiches and borrow lipstick from each other. The radium dust settles on their clothes and hair and skin. When they walk home at night, their dresses glow faintly in the darkness. They call themselves the Ghost Girls and think it is funny. At the end of each shift, the supervisors inspect the dials under black light. The glowing numbers are crisp and perfect. The girls are praised for their work. The management knows radium is dangerous. The company's own scientists wear lead aprons and handle radium behind protective screens. The chemists use tongs and masks when working with the raw powder, but the girls on the factory floor are given no protection at all. They are told the paint is safe because the company needs them to believe it. A terrified worker is a slow worker. A slow worker costs money. The first signs appear within 2 to 3 years of beginning work at the factory. The girls' teeth begin to loosen in their gums for no apparent reason. A young woman pulls a tooth and the socket does not heal. The empty hole in her jaw begins to grow instead of close. Grace Fryer develops severe anemia that no doctor can explain. Molly Maggia, Amelia's younger sister, develops a persistent toothache in 1922. The dentist extracts a tooth. The wound does not heal. A second tooth is removed, then a third. The jaw itself begins to rot. The bone turns black and crumbles like wet cardboard. The radium has been bombarding Molly's jawbone with alpha particles for 5 years. Her mouth becomes a crater of dying tissue and exposed bone. She is 24 years old. In September 1922, Molly Maggia dies in agony that no morphine can touch. The death certificate lists the cause as syphilis to protect the company's reputation. But Molly Maggia never had syphilis. She had radium necrosis of the jaw, and she is only the first. The other girls begin to die one by one over the next 2 years. Marguerite Carlo develops severe anemia and her spine begins to collapse. Albertha LaRouche loses her entire lower jaw to radium necrosis. Quinta MacDonald's legs become so brittle she cannot walk. The bones fracture from the weight of standing still. Ella Eckert develops a sarcoma on her knee that spreads to her lungs. Each woman dies in a way that the local doctors have never seen before. The symptoms follow a consistent and terrifying pattern. First, the teeth loosen, then the jaw deteriorates, then the anemia deepens, then the bones begin to disintegrate from the inside out. The cause is simple physics. Radium has a half-life of 1,600 years. While the girls lived, the radium sat in their bones, firing alpha particles into living tissue. Alpha particles are heavy and slow, but they are relentless. They cannot penetrate skin from the outside, but inside the bone, they are unstoppable. Day after day, year after year, the radiation kills the bone marrow and the surrounding cells. The skeleton becomes a radioactive cage that slowly destroys the body it once supported. The United States Radium Corporation denies all responsibility. They hire detectives to follow the dying women and dig up dirt on their lives. They argue that the women must have contracted syphilis or tuberculosis. They suggest the jaw necrosis is caused by poor dental hygiene or loose morals. The company's lawyers are among the most powerful in New York City. The women who are still alive decide to fight back. Grace Fryer becomes the lead plaintiff in what will become a landmark legal case. She is 28 and dying, but her mind is sharp and her will is absolute. Catherine Schaub joins the suit despite being unable to walk without crutches. Edna Hussman joins, even though she can no longer lift her arms above her shoulders. They hire a young lawyer named Raymond Berry, who takes the case on contingency. He is 28 years old and has never tried a case against a corporation. This powerful Berry needs a medical expert who can prove the link between radium and the women's symptoms. He finds Dr. Harrison Martland, the chief medical examiner of Essex County. Martland devises a test that had never been attempted before in medical history. He takes a sample of Amelia Maggia's bone and places it on photographic film. He leaves it in a dark room for several days and then develops the film. The developed film shows a perfect image of the bone surrounded by a halo of radiation. The bone had been taking its own picture from inside the grave. The phenomenon is called autoradiography, and it proves the case beyond any doubt. The radium inside the women's bodies is still emitting radiation years after their deaths. Confronted with this evidence, the company offers a settlement. The amount is insultingly small, but the women are running out of time. They need the money for medical care and funerals, and the children they will leave behind. Grace Fryer accepts the settlement in 1928, 3 years after filing her case. She dies 5 years later, at the age of 34. But the legal battle did something that a settlement could not undo. It established for the first time in American law that corporations are liable for occupational disease. The Radium Girls created the legal framework for every workplace safety regulation that followed. The Occupational Safety and Health Administration traces its ancestry to their courtroom. Every worker's compensation claim for industrial illness rests on precedent they established. Every warning label on every chemical container exists because of what happened to them. The United States Radium Corporation was eventually shut down and the factory demolished. But the site in Orange, New Jersey, remains radioactive to this day. The Environmental Protection Agency classified it as a Superfund site in the 1980s. Soil samples taken in 1997 still showed radium levels thousands of times above background. The half-life of radium-226 is 1,600 years. The factory has been gone for decades, but the ground itself is still poisoned. The women's bones, buried in cemeteries across New Jersey, are still radioactive. If you placed a Geiger counter over Grace Fryer's grave, the needle would still move. A century has passed since the Ghost Girls walked home with their glowing dresses. Their names are mostly forgotten now, except by labor historians and occupational safety experts. Every safe workplace you have entered was built on the ruined jawbones of young women. Every fire exit, every hard hat regulation, every toxic substance disclosure form. Workers' rights were paid for by girls who put brushes in their mouths. Grace Fryer, Catherine Schaub, Molly Maggia, Amelia Maggia, Quinta MacDonald, Marguerite Carlo, Albertha LaRouche, Ella Eckert, Edna Hussman. They painted watch numbers so men at war could see the time in the dark. They were told they were doing their patriotic duty, and they believed it. And the corporation that killed them knew the paint was poison from the very beginning. It knew, and it said nothing. Because profit required silence, and silence was cheaper than safety. The watches they painted are now collector's items sold at antique auctions for hundreds of dollars. Most buyers do not know what the glowing hands cost the women who painted them. If you ever hold one of these watches, be careful. The radium paint is still active. The alpha particles are still firing. The half-life is measured in millennia. The glow will outlast every human memory of its origin. But now you know what it cost. Knowing is the only thing we can offer them. The least we can do is remember their names and say them aloud, because they did not die for nothing. They died and the law changed. Their bones took pictures of themselves in the dark, and those pictures became evidence that changed the world.